dynamic. No, she wasn't dynamic. She wasn't wonderful until after Gary started talking to her. So let him explain the story of this waitress that he was so enamored with. Gary?
Thank you.
So you have room.
Like two ships in the night. What does that mean anyway? Ever thought about that? I thought about, what does it mean, two ships passing in the night? And I thought, well, it might mean two ships gliding silently by each other. Or it might mean two ships charging past each other with horns blaring. Or maybe it even means two ships colliding. Imagine last summer, being with my family and I, down at the beach at Nags Head, North Carolina. You ever have one of those vacations at the beach where half the time is spent in pouring down rain? Well, it was like that. So it was the last day, the day we had to leave, and my wife said, you know, we're leaving here today anyway, so why don't we get out a little early and beat the traffic? I like that idea. Unfortunately, everybody else had the same idea. So there we are, sitting in traffic, in the middle of Nags Head, with everybody on the island. So I said, you know, we haven't had breakfast yet, so why don't we pull into the Roy Rogers and have breakfast? We'll wait out the traffic. Unfortunately, everybody had that idea too. So there we were, drenched, packed into the steaming Roy Rogers with everybody in Nags Head. It was one of those things. You ever been in a long, slow line? Everybody's just grumbling at each other. And the employees there, what few were there, either didn't know what they were doing or they didn't care. They may have walked up to you and said, "Hi, welcome to Roy Rogers." Didn't seem very welcoming, though. That's the way it was, except for this one young woman, Jessica. Now, Jessica, she was short, ponytailed. She was handing out the drinks to all the customers. And she was the only person in that entire place who both knew what she was doing and she cared about it. Unfortunately, us customers, we don't do real good at discriminating between Jessicas and non-Jessicas. Like the guy in front of me in line, for example. Constantly grumbling. She handed him his coffee. He grabbed it and said, "It's about time." Now, I don't know how I would have reacted to that. I don't know how you would have reacted to that. But Jessica, she chose to just ignore it and went on with her job. Well, I was next in line. Lucky Jessica. And so she came up to me and she handed me my coffee with a slight smile on her tired face. Suddenly I was transformed back into the middle of this book by Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And in this book, Dale Carnegie tells a story about a woman named Georgette, who was an aristocrat in turn-of-the-century Vienna, Austria, the turn of the 20th century, clarify these things. And Dale talks about, well, here, let me read it to you. A servant girl brought Georgette her meals. They called her Marie the dishwasher. Cross-eyed, bandy-legged, poor in flesh and spirit. One day Georgette said to her, "Marie, you do not know what treasures are inside you." Marie waited a few minutes, sighed, and said, "Madame, I would never have believed it." She ran out and repeated what Georgette had said, over and over. A few weeks later, Marie told Georgette, "I'm going to be a lady," and thanked her. A small phrase had changed her entire life. Suddenly, I saw standing in front of me the image of Dale Carnegie. Dude. And he was saying to me, "Gary, Jessica is your Marie. Really? But he was right. He was totally right. I knew he was. And so when Jessica handed me my coffee, I took it and I said, "Thank you, Jessica." And customers don't tell you this very often, but we really appreciate how hard you work and do your job here. Tell you, Jessica, she didn't know what to say. She kind of looked at me and said, "Thank you." And then she smiled and she said, "Thank you." In fact, she couldn't stop thanking me. About 10 minutes later, I went up to get a refill for my coffee because somebody had spilled it. Serena's looking at me going, "I bet I know who it was."
The wife.
It was one of the kids.
Sure.
And she handed me the coffee. And she said, looked at me in the eye and she said, "You don't know how much what you said means to me." I bet she walked out that day walking on air. I know I did. Jessica and I, we could have decided, we could have been like two ships passing in the night. Her silently, mechanically dispensing coffee. Me, like Mr. Grumbly in line, grabbing it out of her hand. But we decided to share a little bit of human relationship. And it is a decision, too. Don't miss that. In fact, it's a decision we make every single day. And you'll probably get an opportunity to make that decision before you go to bed this very night. Which one are you going to choose? What does it matter? Well, I suppose in the scheme of things, it doesn't really matter that much. But I can tell you one thing. I'll never know Jessica's last name, and she'll never know mine. But I guarantee you that that morning will live forever in the heart and mind of Jessica from Nag's Head and Gary from Leesburg, because we chose not to be two ships in the night.